Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
The formal meeting of the Richmond City Council will now come to order. At this time, we'll have some important announcements provided by our security manager and our city clerk. Mr. Winborn, welcome. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's council meeting. My name is Dr. Winborn. I'm here to bring you a few announcements that govern us while we're here in council chambers.
Buenas noches, soy el Dr. Winborn, soy el director de seguridad de la ciudad. Quiero tomar un momento para decirles algunas reglas acerca de la conducta en la sala.
There will be no loud outbursts, no clapping, or standing at any time while in council chambers.
No se permite comida, no se permite aplaudir ni ponerse de pie en ningún momento de la reunión.
If you have a sign, please be respectful of the person sitting behind you.
Si tienen alguna señal o letrero, por favor respeten a las personas que tienen detrás de ustedes.
Men's restrooms are out the rear chamber to my left.
El baño de hombres está a la salida a la izquierda.
Women's restrooms are out the council chamber to my right.
El baño de mujeres está a la salida derecha.
If you decide you want to leave council chambers for the night, please exit at the left door and the escalators are to your left.
Si deciden salir de la sesión, pueden salir por la entrada del lado izquierdo y ahí hay unas escaleras eléctricas que los llevan afuera.
Please be mindful of your time if you come to the podium tonight to speak, and please return to your seat once you're done.
Por favor, sean conscientes del tiempo que esperan acá. Una vez hayan terminado su turno en el micrófono, por favor, retornen a su silla.
Security will be monitoring council chambers, and we'll ask you to leave if you cannot abide by the rules.
Si no pueden seguir las reglas, seguridad está pendiente de ustedes y les vamos a pedir que se retiren.
Again, thank you.
De nuevo, muchas gracias.
Spanish interpretation is available in the council chamber. Please see a representative at the rear of the room to receive the appropriate equipment. Spanish interpretation is also available through Microsoft Teams for virtual attendees in need of this service.
Disponemos de servicios de interpretación en español en la sala del consejo. Por favor, diríjanse a mí, Javier López, en la parte de atrás de la sala para que les dé el equipo adecuado. También está disponible interpretación en español a través de la aplicación Microsoft Teams.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Madam President, I think you do need to introduce the invocation speaker.
Yes. Was there any additional that you wanted to provide, any additional comments at this point?
No, Madam President.
Thank you. At this time, the invocation will be offered by Reverend Michael Carlucci of Sacred Heart Catholic Church, and that invocation will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Welcome, Reverend Carlucci.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Almighty God, merciful and loving Father, we come to you this evening both in gratitude and in supplication. In gratitude for having given us the freedom and the right to govern ourselves as free people, and in supplication for your divine guidance, that those to whom you have given authority to make decisions for the common good of the people of the city of Richmond would do so by earnestly seeking your wisdom. We pray that you watch over this governing body, infuse it with your spirit of fraternal love, and we further pray for your divine protection over our beloved city. We ask all of this in the name of Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, God, forever and ever. Amen. United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
Madam Clerk, if you would please provide the chamber emergency evacuation announcement followed by the public speaker guidelines.
Upon activation of the emergency alarm signal, all persons should immediately exit the building. Please use the exits to the left or right of the council chamber or the east or west stairwell outside the rear doors of the chamber leading to Marshall Street. Do not use elevators or escalators. After exiting the building, security will direct everyone down 9th Street to the assembly area located inside the former public safety building parking lot. Able persons should assist visually and hearing impaired visitors with exiting the building. Public speaker guidelines. Individuals wishing to speak during public hearings and the public comment period are generally allowed 3 minutes to speak. Persons appearing before council are not allowed to campaign for public office, promote private business ventures, use language of a personal nature which insults or demeans any person, including comments directed at public officials or staff members that are not related to their official duties, or address or question staff members directly. All questions are to be directed to the President of Council. Failure to adhere to the guidelines may result in speakers forfeiting any remaining time, and further disciplinary action is necessary, which could include barring from attendance at future meetings of City Council for a period of 6 months. Members of the public who registered in advance to speak virtually will be called at the appropriate time, either during the citizen comment period or during the public hearing for the legislation on which they signed up to address. Madam President, that concludes the announcements.
And Madam President, all members of council are in attendance this evening. Individuals standing in the rear of the chamber are asked to be seated at this time where seats are available. Also, no applause is permitted during the course of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, let's proceed with the public comment speakers at this time.
The first speaker is James Stallings.
Welcome, Mr. Stallings.
Thank you very much. My name is James Stallings. My mother resides in the 3rd District. The last time I spoke to you about drinking water, and I promised your president that I would resolve the problem for you. It typically only takes 90 days to solve any problem, and that was the case here, in that you only have 4% reserved drinking water in your system, and that you have to bring it up to 30%. The nemesis here is the data centers who ring your city, and the ones that are coming in Chesterfield County, Goshen County, and that sort of thing. The solution happens to be very easy. All you have to do is take the data equipment out of the outlying counties' data centers and bring them into the ambient cool of the city, into vacant real estate and vacant or unused subterraneans. You then take the shells that are out and abandoned in the outlying counties, and you convert those to the affordable housing that you need so desperately. Now, the beautiful thing about this is that you don't have to finance this, because the one thing Dominion Energy or any utility will do is not build a power station. That's an incredibly difficult thing. So they will literally pay for this, because what you're doing by bringing data center equipment from the outlying counties into the city and using the ambient cooling of the city is you are neutralizing consumer energy load. Consumer energy load is what drives the power stations. Now, the nexus of what caused this problem was that when this data center boom started, okay, there was no provisions nor time for the electrical energy people to respond to it, okay? And the key thing about this is that the entire electrical system is overpowered now, overpressurized, by 30%, and that's the key thing. I have emailed council the PDF I provided today that has the appropriate links and emails that shows how this extended explanation and extended solution
30 seconds.
Thank you, can be resolved. It only takes 90 days to start it up. You can do it and finish it completely in 2 years, and that leaves you another 3 years till 2030, because what I've introduced to you is what we call Project 3030. What happens in the next 5 years will determine what happens for the next 1,000 years to 3030. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Christine Peterson.
Welcome, Ms. Peterson.
Thank you. I'm Chris Peterson. I am the chair of the Richmond Public Library Board of Trustees, and I'm going to tell you 3 things in 3 minutes. First, we have significantly increased our outreach to RVA communities and residents. Let me give you some statistics over the past 2 years. First, if you look at print, media, and digital, we've increased that by 50%. We've had 150,000 new people come to the Richmond Public Libraries, and we've expanded programs and doubled the attendance. So that's number 1. Number 2, summer reading. So we have 10 interns paid for by grant funding. So the interns and our staff were very busy this summer. We had more programs than ever before, and everyone was full. In fact, reptiles and rainbow puppets were so popular, we had to move from the meeting rooms into the center of the library. All in all, over 2 years, we've increased summer reading participation by 52%. I want to finally talk to you about next summer, 2026, where we're once again going to expand our programming. And I'm going to give you a little advanced information. Are you ready for a secret? Next summer's theme is Unearth a Story. So if you know a dinosaur lover, an archaeology fan, or a rock expert, if you whisper this in their ear, they'll have something fabulous to look forward to. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson.
The next speaker is Ross Crawford.
Good evening, Richmond City Council, a longtime listener, first-time caller. I live in the 1st District, and sustainability is really, really important to me, not just green initiatives, but also thinking about it holistically. So what does it mean to be a sustainable city? And I think that really surrounds affordable housing, and not just affordable housing, but really housing that people can buy and build equity in the city. My wife and I were blessed. We're super lucky to be able to own in the city, and frankly, like nobody, or not, I shouldn't say nobody, but like people just can't do that anymore. Like if we were transported 4 years from now, like we couldn't buy a house now. And I think one goal or one way to do that is limit the amount of luxury for rent apartments that are popping up. Not to say that they're bad, they're good. They serve a purpose, and we have plenty of them. We don't want to tear them down. Like they are vital to the city, but we have so many, and right now I think we need to use that real estate, that limited real estate. Richmond's not getting any bigger, to build dense, high-rise condos or just units that people can buy. A novel idea I had, I have no idea if it would work or not, but I think it's fun, and I think we should probably try it. Well, I think we should explore it because I think it's fun. But, what if the city were to take one of the vacant lots somewhere around in a desirable part, be it downtown, West End, somewhere, and develop a high-rise condo and then sell all of the units at cost? If you do that, then you can put any kind of parameters that you want, first-time home buyers, low income, whatever you want, right? Sky's the limit. And I think that would be kind of a neat way, and then by selling it at cost, theoretically, you can just keep doing it over and over and over again. Again, I don't know if feasible, but why not look into it, right? Like, let's get creative. I think, and sometimes, like, we are the government, like, we can just make laws and do it, right? Yeah, that's kind of my pitch. But thanks for your time. Hope you guys don't have to stay too late tonight, but heard there's a big vote ahead. Thanks again.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford.
The next speaker is Cindy Bell.
Welcome,
Good evening,
Ms. Bell.
council members. My name is Cindy Bell. I'm a career educator, a university supervisor at VCU, a PhD student, a mother of two, and a former Richmond resident. 2 years ago, my friend Jacob Thompson stood before this council and pleaded for help with Richmond's homelessness crisis. That night, they said they had to pee in a jug to stay warm because there were no open shelter beds anywhere in the city. 2 years later, I'm here because nothing has changed, and now I'm one of those people they were speaking for. On August 5th, my landlord was informed that I could not pay rent on time. Less than 5 hours later, he issued an illegal self-help eviction. No 5-day notice, no chance to pay, and flat out rejected my proposal payment plan. One missed paycheck caused by a payroll garnishment for past marital debt made my family homeless. I reported black mold, unsafe stairway lighting, repeated vandalism, and begged for the locks in my home to be changed. Every concern was ignored. He only followed the Virginia Residential Landlord and Tenant Act after I so eloquently asked him to go read it. When I cited the Virginia Code section 55.1, 1245 subsection F, which requires lawful eviction procedures amongst other potential violations, his attorney didn't dispute any law. He corrected my grammar. No law, not the facts, not my evidence, just my grammar. The eviction was later withdrawn only after I had already vacated under his unlawful directive. Now Richmond City Public Schools pays the price for this landlord's unlawful conduct as they pay a private transportation service to get my son from Hanover County to his school in the city under the McKinney-Vento Act because he is now classified as doubled up homeless. This is a waste of taxpayer money, not because of neglect, but because a landlord broke the law and the city allowed it. Landlords operate routinely in this city without following the laws that they are governed by. When I was displaced, I contacted the YWCA for assistance and was told that the local shelters had long waiting lists. Families are living in cars and motels because there are no beds, no place in this city to go in an emergency. I nearly lost custody of my daughter, and we are only safe today because a colleague took us in temporarily. I live with a disability, and I have survived a lifetime of abuse, and yet the systems meant to protect tenants and families abandoned us. This city fails its residents and does more so now considering the federal government is moving to criminalize homelessness, punishing the very people left without any options. We are watching as families without homes are treated as criminals, vagrants, and nuisances, while those responsible for their displacement face no consequences whatsoever. Homelessness is not a moral failure, it is a failure of enforcement, compassion, and leadership. It no longer affects those society chooses to ignore. It affects parents, working families, and educators, the people who hold this community together, humans who deserve kindness and dignity. Tenant rights are not optional. I ask that the Council act, place housing enforcement, tenant protections, and homeless crisisness on the public agenda, stop criminalizing displacement, help our constituents in need, and hold those in power accountable. Despite my own disability, I'm standing here today because if one single mother never faces wrongful eviction and homelessness again, then I have done my civic duty, so please do yours.
That is your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bell.
The next speaker is Aurora Britt. Aurora Britt. The next speaker is Charles Pierce.
Good evening, Madam President. My name is Charles Pierce, and I live at 20 West Broad Rock Road. That's in the south side. There's just been a major problem. I stood here October 15th, 2024, complaining about the same issue. The alley is just tore up. Snakes, rats, homelessness, and vegetation everywhere. Can't get any help. It's been going on, been complaining. No one comes out. I did call your office last week because I wanted to meet with the president. If I was a teacher, I would go to the principal. So I'm going to the president, okay? I would like for you, Madam President, to come out to the residents. You can bring a police officer or security with you. I would like for you to see this alley. The alley is tore up. It looks like, and excuse me, it looked like Gaza. That's exactly what it looks like. But no one cares. So I'm coming to you, asking you, Madam President, come out. Here's my card. I would like to leave my card for you to call, set up a date and time. I will meet you so we can walk the alley and we can get something done, because nothing has been done. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce.
The next speaker is Josue Castillo.
Welcome, Mr. Castillo.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Josue Castillo. I am a resident of the 6th District and an organizer with New Virginia Majority. I want to start by saying thank you for listening to our voices and for including anti-rent gouging as a priority in the draft legislative agenda. I hope that together we can continue to push for the progressive policies we need to end displacement. Now I want to address the elephant in the room. Our nation is inching closer to authoritarianism every day, and we ought to be doing more to protect our city. All of you are aware that across the country, people are being torn away from their communities and disappeared by our federal government. They tell us that this is in the name of public safety, while they target fathers like Silviano Moravera, a lawfully present visa holder who was abducted in Richmond while walking his son to the bus stop. I can't tell you the emotional trauma and the financial toll it is to lose a parent, but what I can tell you is that our local organizations are struggling to meet the needs of these families. ICE has routinely violated our First and Fourth Amendment rights. They are using fear to subdue people for speaking out. This is evidenced by what they did on August 1st when they arrested business owner and influencer Nery Godinez, who live streamed his own arrest on Facebook. Men in plain clothes and in tactical gear surrounded his car in Richmond. One officer told him, "Bájate o te disparo," "Get out or I'll shoot you," in front of his wife and family. Thousands of people watched his live stream and felt the terror that this is happening in our city. The actions of the federal administration undermine our constitutional rights and have created a culture of fear and mistrust in our local institutions. In my conversations with community members, many have expressed to me that they don't feel safe while driving, going to court, contacting emergency services, or even applying for city programs. How do we work together to build the trust back in our institutions? We know that Richmond celebrates its diversity, and we know that multiple city officials have declared publicly that they're not collaborating with ICE. We also need to recognize that the threats to our liberties are real. Federal troops are being deployed in American cities across the country, and actions protect all of us better than words. Arlington and Fairfax have already passed trust policies, which makes it law that the cities will never voluntarily use their own resources to facilitate immigration enforcement, no matter who is in office
30 seconds.
or what agenda they may have. My ask to you all in council this evening, on behalf of New Virginia Majority, is that we start having conversations about what that could look like here. When we see our neighbors being persecuted, let's not wait until it's too late to have this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Blair Snowcave.
Welcome, Ms. Snowclave.
Thank you so much. Good evening, City Council members and citizens. First, I want to thank you for your hard work and service to the city. While the city is rezoning to attract an increase in residents, please do not forget the needs of current residents. Nothing is more attractive to prospective residents more than seeing how their needs will be met. As of now, the city and leadership are not doing its best to address urgent matters for the citizens. There are a few visual water leaks in the alley shared between Freeman Road and South Nasman Street. This is in the 5th District near West End. 2 have been reported since July from various residents using various methods with no response. Pictures were also sent to leadership with no response. They were even also reported by DPW city employees as they attempted to re-gravel the alley and could not continue due to the leaks. The leaks have caused water bills to spike 3 times the usage for some. The visually largest leaks are behind 708 Freeman Road and 707 South Nasman Street. It's like a stream at its worst and may also cause physical damage. Not to mention, as the weather gets colder, freezing could cause further issues such as children slipping, pipes bursting. Thank you for your time, and please assist in this matter.
Thank you.
The last speaker is Chad Wells.
Welcome, Mr. Wells.
Thank you. My name is Chad Wells. I'm from the 3rd District. And I just want to thank you guys for making the anti-rent gouging part of the ongoing efforts. 30 years ago, actually 32 years ago, I came down to Richmond on a college tour, and I got to meet Douglas Wilder. And something about Richmond just stuck out, as a place that eventually I would find myself back, and here I am today. But the thing about it is that, I think moving around a lot, primarily because of the rent gouging, being a victim, when I convinced my wife to move here from New York, saying, Richmond would be a good, happy medium, it was good, it was cool at first. Then a new property took over one of the places that I lived in, and yeah, I had to move, so. And I look at other people in Virginia, and it's tough. I see it, and I'm passionate. I just have the passion. I like what I see moving forward, as far as what you're doing, but I hate the fact that it had to get to this point where we have to now protect our own by coming down and having to fight, struggle, bite, kick, and stretch. But one thing I know about Richmond, the people here are resilient, and that's what really stands out, moving down from New York, New York City, and convincing my wife. I just pray and hope, we did find a nice spot, really cool spot right now, that, hopefully by July, you guys can get something in place so that, based on what I've seen so far, what you guys were talking about, so I ain't got to move again. And I can go on about doing the other things I like to do, like helping the community in other ways. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Madam President, that concludes the list of public comment period speakers for this evening.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and thank you all who've come down to share your concerns and issues, and they have been duly noted, and there will be follow-up. Thank you. Okay, I'm not sure if it's going to be Madam or Mr. Clerk. Let's move on to review any amendments to tonight's agenda.
Madam President, the amendments to tonight's agenda are as follows. Item 1, Ordinance 2025-014. Item 4, Ordinance 2025-113. And Item 5, Ordinance 2025-150 will all be continued to the Monday, November 10th Council meeting. Item 6, Ordinance 2025-174 will be amended later this evening and then continued to the Monday, November 10th Council meeting. Item 7, Ordinance 2025-209 will be continued to the Monday, November 10th Council meeting. Item 8, Ordinance 2025-210. Item 9, Ordinance 2025-211. And Item 12, Ordinance 2025-214 will all be amended later this evening and continued to the Monday, November 10th Council meeting. Item 13, Ordinance 2025-215 will be continued to the Monday, November 10th Council meeting. Item 20, Ordinance 2025-222 will be continued to the Monday, November 10th Council meeting. Item 24, Resolution 2025-R041 will be continued to the Monday, December 8th Council meeting. Item 25, Ordinance 2025-161 will be amended later this evening and continued to the Monday, November 10th Council meeting. And item 29, ordinance 2025-190, will be continued to the Monday, November 10th council meeting. Madam President, those are all the amendments to tonight's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Is there a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Council is now voting on this evening's agenda amendments as read. Mr. Breton?
Aye.
Ms. Gibson?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Ms. Robertson?
Aye.
Ms. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Trammell?
Aye.
Ms. Abubakar?
Aye.
Vice President Jurgen?
Aye.
President Newbill?
Aye.
That motion is approved. The amended agenda is before you.
Thank you. For those papers on the consent agenda, do we have any of the patrons who would like to make any comment prior to going into public hearing?
Madam President, we do need to read the consent agenda items first.
Oh, I'm sorry. I went right ahead of you, ma'am. Yes, go back, please.
Madam President, the consent agenda consists of the following items. Item 2, ordinance 2025-079. Item 3, ordinance 2025-081. Item 10, ordinance 2025-212. Item 11, ordinance 2025-213. Item 14, ordinance 2025-216. Item 15, ordinance 2025-217. Item 16, ordinance 2025-218. Item 17, ordinance 225-219. Ordinance 18, ordinance 2025-220. Ordinance Item 19, ordinance 2025-221. Item 21, ordinance 2025-223. Item 22, ordinance 2025-224. And lastly, item 23, ordinance 2025-226. Those are all the items on tonight's consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now, if there are any persons who are patrons on any of the consent agenda who would like to make comment, if you would, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll proceed with the public hearing. Are there persons present in the audience who wish to speak in favor of any items on the consent agenda? If you would come forward. Madam Clerk, seeing none present in the audience, do we have any who joined us virtually?
We do not, Madam President.
Thank you. Are there persons present in the audience desirous of speaking in opposition to any item on the consent agenda? If you would come forward.
Good evening, council members. Thank you for taking the time to hear us tonight. My name is Latrice Gregory, and I am here with SEIU 32BJ to speak in strong opposition to property tax cuts. I've lived in...
Just 1 second. We're not at those papers yet.
You're not at that one?
No,
Okay.
but we will be soon.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any persons present desirous of speaking in opposition to items on the consent agenda? The item the young lady was just raising will be on our regular agenda, and we will come back to that. Seeing none, and Madam Clerk, we have none who have joined us virtually to speak in opposition, correct?
That is correct.
The public hearing is now closed. Bring it back to council for discussion. Any members? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the question.
Council is voting on the consent agenda as presented. Mr. Breton?
Aye.
Ms. Gibson?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Ms. Robertson?
Aye.
Ms. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Trammell?
Aye.
Ms. Abubakar?
Aye.
Vice President Jurgen?
Aye.
President Newbill?
Aye.
Those papers have been adopted.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We will now move on to the regular agenda, and there should be items 31 and 32, Madam Clerk.
The first two regular agenda items for this evening are item 31, ordinance number 2025-207, and that's to amend city code concerning the levy of taxes on real estate to establish a tax rate of $1.20 for the tax year beginning January 1st, 2026. And item number 32, ordinance number 2025-208, and that's to amend city code concerning the levy of tax on real estate to establish a tax rate of $1.16 for the tax year beginning January 1st, 2026. Those papers are both before council.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would the patrons and/or their designee of either of those papers like to make comment prior to public hearing? If you would come forward. Okay. Seeing none. I'm sorry, Ms. Gibson? Okay, that was inadvertent. Okay. Seeing none, we will proceed with the public hearing. Are there persons present in the audience desirous of speaking in opposition to either of these papers?
Madam
Yes.
President, I believe it's my understanding that we are to have a public comment for both items.
That's correct.
So if anyone would like to make any comments relative to these two ordinances, they can come to the center aisle at this time.
Right, but the first set of speakers will be those desirous of speaking in opposition to either of the papers. Right, okay. Please come forward desirous of speaking to the papers. We're making modifications as we're taking both papers at the same time, and there will be, trying to ascertain the number of speakers, at least 2 minutes per speaker. Please.
Okay. Good evening, council members. Thank you for taking the time to hear us tonight. My name is Latrice Gregory, and I am here with SEIU 32BJ to speak in strong opposition to property tax cuts. I've lived in Richmond for 34 years and have worked as a day porter for 25 of those years. Over time, I've watched the city grow and progress, but too often that progress has left essential city workers like myself behind. I love the work I do and the people I get to connect with every day, but despite my dedication, I earn just $15 an hour. A few years ago, I was shot and severely injured. I was working a job without benefits and without a living wage. As a result, I had no choice but to move in with my daughter, and 3 years later, I'm still unable to get back on my feet financially. My income barely covers my medical bills and basic living expenses. Workers in Richmond are drowning, caught between rising housing costs, skyrocketing living expenses, and wages that simply haven't kept up, and life doesn't pause while we try to catch up. We will not support a tax that would limit the city's ability to respond to this housing crisis and adjust the wages while primarily benefiting those who already own property. This is not equity. That's not responsible governance, and it is not acceptable. Any proposal any proposal that reduces the city's budget and in turn threatens programs and workers' wages and community support is unacceptable, and we strongly oppose these cuts. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, council members. My name is Angela Arrington, and I'm speaking to you tonight not just as a member of SEIU 32BJ, but as a longtime Richmond resident, a worker, and someone who deeply cares about this city and the people who keeps it running. For years, I've worked as a lead janitor at VCU. Every day, my coworkers and I clean buildings, maintain public spaces, and do the behind-the-scenes work that often goes unnoticed. But Richmond wouldn't function without it. We take pride in what we do, but pride doesn't pay the bills. I earn $17 an hour. That may sound good, or that may sound okay on paper, but in reality, it means living paycheck to paycheck. Once rent and basic expenses are paid, I often left with $150 to stretch 2 weeks weeks, if that. Sometimes I have to choose between catching up on bills and buying groceries. I know I'm not alone. There are so many contracted workers in the city of Richmond living the same struggle or worse. That's why I'm here tonight. I want to urge you not to lower the city's property taxes rate, not right now. This kind of idea might seem appealing on the surface, but the reality of it would mostly help wealthy homeowners while putting essential city service workers like myself at risk. It would make it even harder for the city to honor its contracts, and it hurts the ability to find important future plans. This including paying workers a living wage. We waited long enough for fair wages and basic respect on the job. The living wage policy isn't a luxury, it's survival. And we cannot afford to keep stepping backwards and tie our hands in the fight for economic justice for city contracted workers. Before any tax cuts are considered, the city must ensure that every city worker earns a true living wage.
Thank you. That is your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, council members. My name is Priscilla Peebles, and I'm here tonight representing SEIU BJ 32BJ. I'm here to share my story and urge you to oppose the property tax cut. Lowering Richmond's property tax rate would severely limit the city's ability to invest in affordable housing, eviction preventions, and collective bargaining. These are critical resources for this city and the residents. I live in Richmond's 8th District, and I work as a janitor cleaning our city buildings. My story is not unique. I'm one of many who are just one medical emergency away from an accident or losing everything. In 2024, I had resigned from my job after undergoing a double knee replacement. I had no access to sick leave or short-term disability. As a full-time janitor, no benefits. I earned $15 an hour, barely enough to get by, let alone survive a health crisis. During my recovery, I had no income, no safety net. I couldn't pay my bills. I was forced to make impossible choices. I felt helpless and shameless. I always done my part to take pride in my work, and I am not being able to let me rely on city programs and love and grace for the community. I'm here for both. I would like to be able to make a thoroughly financial living, and I would be able to force to leave my home. That's why I'm here today, to speak up for those of us who are walking financially, tiptoeing, tightrope in everything every day. We need more investment in housing and security, not less. We firmly oppose any reduction to the property tax at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Katie, and I'm a Richmond resident speaking in support of lowering the real estate property tax rate. After listening to the viewpoints of the mayor and some of the councilors who oppose lowering the rate, I understand their concerns around uncertainty, equity, and budget timing. However, I believe these concerns can benefit from the reframing of accountability, fiscal prudence, and fairness to all taxpayers. Regarding the concern of these being uncertain times, uncertainty is exactly why fiscal discipline matters. I was shocked to learn that the city currently has $31 million in uncollected real estate taxes. A city that leaves $31 million in uncollected real estate taxes is already taking a financial risk. Collecting what's owed first would stabilize revenue and build credibility before asking residents to continue paying more. Regarding the concern that a rate cut will not provide targeted relief to those who need it most, while it's true a flat cut isn't targeted, fairness still matters. I am not a large corporate property owner who stands to gain hundreds of thousands in savings by a cut. Those like me who are paying their taxes feel the squeeze from rising assessments and inflation. A modest rate cut would restore balance for everyone who pays on time, while targeted programs can still continue for those most in need. This
30
isn't an
seconds.
either or, it's both and. Regarding the concern about this is bad timing, I understand the budget is already approved and lowering the rate could affect funding for services we all value. But this assumes we've already collected everything owed, which is not true. Adjusting the rate while addressing collection gaps is simply good management, not reckless budgeting. I understand the intent behind keeping the rate steady, protecting services and ensuring equity, but fiscal responsibility and fairness aren't at odds with lowering the rate. They
Thank you.
depend
That
on
is your
it.
time. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Adam Belcastro, and I'm a proud resident of the 5th District. I'm here tonight representing the International Association of Firefighters, Local 995, the men and women that make up the Richmond Fire Department. I've served as a Richmond firefighter for the past 10 years plus, and I currently hold a position in our union's executive board. As a shop steward, I work closely with our members to address the daily challenges faced by both firefighters and employees of the emergency communications dispatch. I'm also fortunate to live in the very community in which I serve. I'm assigned to Fire Station 12 and live less than a mile from that firehouse. That's the new one on Cary Street. When I respond to emergencies, I'm not just responding to calls, I'm showing up for my neighbors, and I take that responsibility deeply personal. As a homeowner in the city, real estate tax is a common and routine topic of discussion for me and my wife, and as costs continue to skyrocket, Americans are facing financial challenges every month, and tough decisions are being made in many Richmond households. While a proposed 4-cent tax reduction in real estate might sound like a meaningful relief, the truth is it won't significantly benefit low and middle income homeowners, and it wouldn't help the nearly 60% of Richmonders who rent their homes. Instead, the primary beneficiary would be the wealthiest homeowners and large corporations that own rental properties. To provide some perspective, the median sale price of a single-family home in Richmond metro area is approximately $400,000, according to the Richmond Association of Realtors. A 4-cent tax rollback
30 seconds.
on such a home would result in a $160 annual savings for the owner. Yet this small personal savings will come at a very large collective cost, roughly $17.2 million in lost revenue for the city. Real estate taxes is a crucial funding source of public safety. Given the ongoing staffing shortages in the fire department and increased service demands, I cannot in good conscience support a tax cut that would result in reduced public safety funding. We need more investment, not less.
Thank you. That is your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Charles Hall. I'm a resident of Councilwoman Newbill's 7th District. I'm here to express my support for maintaining the city's real estate tax rate at $1.20 and my opposition to a blanket 4-cent reduction that applies equally, regardless of income, property value, or need. While I know that some residents would benefit from a temporary tax cut, I believe the additional revenue generated by maintaining the current rate will go much farther, helping to fund essential services and initiatives that support those who need them most. With so much dysfunction at the federal level, the responsibility to care for our city's most vulnerable will increasingly fall on our local and state governments. Providing this administration with the resources it needs is vital to ensuring our collective success. I also understand that real estate taxes will be frozen next year and reassessed in 2027. As such, these next 2 years present an opportunity for the city to reevaluate its priorities, improve efficiency, and design targeted relief for those who truly need it. We can do better than an across-the-board cut, and I urge us to take a more thoughtful and equitable approach. Lastly, it seems like this 4-cent cut would result in approximately $17 million being removed from our city's budget. I'm an affordable housing developer, and we were recently awarded a little over $500,000 to build 56 permanently affordable homes next door to St. Elizabeth Apartments in Highland Park. Looked at another way, $17 million could help fund the creation of almost 2,000 new affordable homes across our city that desperately needs more affordability and more options. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, Madam President, Madam Vice President, council members. My name is Jason Cameras. I am a resident of the 3rd District, a homeowner and superintendent of Richmond Public Schools. I am not speaking on behalf of the school board, but for myself. I want to say thank you to you and your colleagues and those who came before you for your extraordinary and historic investments in Richmond Public Schools over the last several years. I am truly and deeply grateful. It is because of those investments that we have had historic gains as of late. As I shared with the school board just last week, our graduation rate has reached 80% for the first time in nearly a decade, and the graduation rate for our Black students has reached an all-time high as far back as the Virginia Department of Education tracks this data, as has the graduation rate for our economically disadvantaged students. Those successes are inextricably linked to the investment that this city has made in our children in RPS. And it is because of that that I humbly come before you this evening and ask you to maintain the property tax rate at $1.20. The public may not realize this, but RPS is largely funded by property taxes. And a reduction in that rate would almost inevitably mean a reduction in
30
funding
seconds.
for RPS. And so again, I humbly and respectfully ask you to maintain the rate, continue the historic investments in our city's children, and we will continue to produce results. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Cameras.
Hello, Council. I'm Casey Miller, a runner and resident of the 7th District. I'm speaking against Ordinance 2005-208. I could only support this ordinance if it included some form of mechanism that functions like a split tax rate and there is a stronger effort to collect on existing deferred property taxes. While I fully empathize with residents who are genuinely struggling and acting in good faith, the current relief structure appears to me to disproportionately benefit high-value property owners, speculative developers eager to raise rent for any reason, and those sitting on underutilized or deteriorating properties. It's especially frustrating that past budget cuts have consistently come out of the expense of public housing, public schooling, and vital social services that actually support everyday residents of this city. Any relief should prioritize the people who live here and need help, not those continuing to exploit the system for profit. Furthermore, it's deeply concerning that these decisions are being made without a full transparency. We still don't know the amount of the fiscal 2005 surplus or how the budget revenue from real property taxes compare to actual assessments from both existing properties and new construction. As others have stated, it feels as though this body is being asked to vote with a blindfold on. That's not responsible governance, and it limits the public's ability to weigh in meaningfully. At the very least, I urge you all to abstain and delay this vote until further budget becomes available on November 15th.
Seconds.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Honorable council members, I am a little old lady here with a big ask. I'm grateful for all of you because you take your job seriously, because you really care about the people who are your constituents. You work hard to listen and to communicate. And you listen, which sometimes makes your job even more difficult. Most of us are seeing the difficulties, financial difficulty and hardship these days. But our lens is very often our own budgets. And it's understandable, it would be, for you to want to show your constituents that you understand their pain and try to reduce the tax rate. As a matter of fact, when I first heard about it, it sounded good to me too. We are retired, on fixed income.
30 seconds.
Spent most of our lives as teachers. But I got some figures from the mayor's office actually and found out that we would only be saving about $12.93 a month. And I grant you, that's the price of 2 containers of our favorite ice cream, but we feel like that's a very small price to pay.
Thank you. That is your time.
Oh, cut me off, right? That's it?
That's your time.
Okay,
Can
I'm
you-
sorry. Please keep it at 120.
Do you mind stating your name for the
Oh,
record?
I'm sorry. I'm Leslie Moore, and I live in the 7th District.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have persons desirous of speaking to these items virtually?
We do not, Madam President.
Thank you. At this point, the public hearing is closed. I'll bring it back to the patrons, again, giving opportunity for comment. Councilwoman Trammell, and then certainly Mr. Donald, any comment before we, public hearing is first. Okay.
No, I was going to let others comment. Or Odie, you can come.
So let me be clear. Welcome, Mr. Donald. Mr. Donald's giving comment from the administration, and patron on the other paper will be you, Ms. Lynch, as opposed to you, Ms. Trammell. Is that correct? No problem. I was just affording the opportunity to the patrons, the lead or designated representative on both papers, to speak to them before we come back for full discussion.
Yeah, Madam
amongst the
President, I don't
body.
want to take up 45 minutes.
Okay,
Because I
no
could probably
worries.
speak for 2 hours on this.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. Mr. Donald?
Yeah. Well, good evening, Council. I will be quick. Had a few comments just to follow up on the memorandum that I sent you. I think you are clear that the administration's position is to keep the $1.20 tax rate in tow, which I think we heard from a variety of people with different perspectives today. So, one, I know that it is a very difficult decision for the council to make, and there are a lot of different positions on it. I think I wanted to clear up some things from our last conversation while also providing you some quick information. I think the first thing is when we talk about the rollback or the equalized rate, and some of this you've heard before because I sent it to you in a memorandum, but for the edification of the public, I want to make sure that we cover those items. So when we talk about the rollback rate, we don't want to talk about it as a mandatory limit because by definition, that's not what it is. Instead, it's a disclosure requirement that's designed to ensure transparency, which I know this council have learned this council is very big on. And so it's making sure that as we calculate the levy, we inform the public if there is any change that is occurring beyond the 101%. And it also needs to be based on our requirements and our needs for that increase, for which we would express through our budget documents, the memorandums that you receive in a variety of other ways, including the public hearings that you have during the budget hearings, for which we've done. For Richmond, I think that part is simple. We've made a lot of commitments that we've gone over quite a bit. I think you even heard from some of our SEIU partners and others that we have, a variety of commitments that we have to keep. Valuable commitments, by the way, that are everything from our employees, our programming, and the safety of our residents, which is paramount. To that end, also, it's important to highlight that when we talk about the real estate tax rate, it's not the driver of rising tax bills. It's actually assessments is what's really driving up. I think I was in the hallway and heard somebody say that the rate itself has been the same for the last 17 years. I actually didn't know that. But the assessments have increased, meaning the values of people's homes have increased. Now, in some circumstances, that's not always good. In others, that's actually very good. For each individual, that's going to mean something different. But I also, want to highlight that with those assessments going up, it proves one thing, which is very different than the narratives that I've been hearing, and that's that people want to live in Richmond, in the city of Richmond. What it also means is that we don't have a large housing stock. And so both of those things can be true, and that's what is causing a part of the issue, which I'll dive into a little bit deeper here shortly. The main thing is, though, is that there's no true silver bullet that both lowers the taxes and raises the value of your home. Both of those things are competing priorities and activities for which we all are responsible for managing. One big problem and pressure that I did not get to put into the memorandum in as much detail as I would like is that as the capital city, we have the highest dollar value in the region when we look at the tax-exempt real estate, meaning the real estate that is not paid taxes on. What that means is a smaller amount of people are paying into that tax bucket than is not. So right now, there are about $10.2 billion in taxes that the city does not realize, which you could imagine would actually add quite a bit of relief to our residents. That's not because of the city's management or even decisions that we have the opportunity to truly determine. That is because those properties are tax exempt, so we are not able to collect on those. This limits our ability to roll back the rate without compromising service levels or fiscal stability, which I believe is why you have not changed it in the last 17 years. And I would also want to double down on the fact that a reduction down to 116 truly does cut core services. So the general fund equates to about $1.1 billion. Personnel cost is about 41% of those, and those rise every year. And that's whether you're in the city of Richmond, whether you're in Henrico, whether you're in Atlanta, Georgia, whether you're in Destin, Florida. The cost to deliver services when it comes to people increases every year. People need to make more money and desire to make more money because many times they're starting at a point where they got a whole lot more months than they do money. Using FY25 as a guide, well, even before we get there, when we look at our operations, that other 59% of our budget, most of that's gone before we actually get to it. So we pay in the non-departmental debt services, meaning we borrow money and we've got to pay on it. The health district and the Richmond Public Schools, who you see is performing excellently, where they receive their funding, it is allocated up front. So that $250 million is pulled out. Even though I say we spend $84 million a month, their portion of that is already pulled out and encumbered on day one, meaning it's made available for them and your operational funds shrink. But if we just use that $84 million a month, at the time that you'll be making this decision and it goes into effect, about 31% of your operational and programmatic and personal expenditures would have already been spent. $336 million comes off of the top. And again, I mentioned that $250 million of that on day one is already encumbered. So that means that there is a lot less money available. So when we talk about that 17.2 million, that's if we had the whole 1.1 billion available on day one. We don't. We've been spending money for 4 months. In addition to that, many of the city services that you oversee are mandated by law. So that means the Richmond Public Schools, police and fire protection, the operation of our jails and courts, children, family, and youth, and other vulnerable residents, the services that they receive are actually in that bucket of money that has already shrunk. That also includes core services like the maintenance of core infrastructure and street maintenance, as well as sanitation services that we're required to deliver by law. A rate cut does not reduce our responsibility to deliver these services. Instead, the pressure shifts to those services that are not mandatory, meaning those human services, those affordable housing activities and other things that are vital and essential but are not considered core services. Collective bargaining agreements, which I think we heard about today, create a recurring legally binding obligation that has risen year over year. When we look at the commitments that you've signed that will soon be dated as we go through the process, in year one, there's a $50.6 million hit. In year two, $271.9 million on top of the 253, so that's $18.6 million in addition to that. And in the 2-year increase, it'll result in about $70 million. So these things are funded first, and there's a pretty large cost. But the results are paying off. In every single area that is being measured, citizen responses, whether it be anecdotal or when you look at vacancy rates and things of that nature, they're all improving. And I'll harp on vacancy rates because I'll be sending out a note tomorrow to our staff congratulating them on that, with an average rate of 10.3 during the past fiscal year. So I wasn't even here for that, just giving them congratulations because it's important. Is the turnover rate for the city is at the lowest rate in close to a decade. I'm pretty sure that's because people are getting a fair day's work for a fair day's pay for a fair day's work, and it makes them want to stay and provide services to others. In addition, which I'll get to my closing here, having a large surplus is actually ideal. We ain't there yet. So the current real estate and federal policy environment is proof that we must have a piggy bank. If you look at interest rates during the pandemic when they were at their lowest in times, I think some got down to about 3.3%. Folks were able to refinance their homes, pull money out, and pay the same rates that they were paying before that time. That helped them realize some of that wealth for those increased property taxes. We're not there right now, but I'll tell you the value in people's homes is very important. And right now we're facing a real estate market where those assessments are going up, but we're seeing all of those layoffs and everything else happening and causing us real issues. In addition to that, just looking at the policy environment in the federal government where those programs that impact the least of these are being cut and slashed at a rate that we have never seen before in our history, modern or otherwise. That burden falls on local government. Are we cutting those programs? Without appropriate resources, we can't fill in the gaps. Keeping the tax rate at 120 ensures that the city can maintain its fiscal stability, continue essential services, and remain prepared to absorb these external shocks and stresses without compromising our long-term position. Currently, we are not meeting the goal of your ordinance that says we should have 20% in fund balance. That means when a rainy day comes, we will get wet. We have to put money away. We couldn't last more than 2 months today if we had to go fully on our fund balance. That is frightening. So to now take away and cut those resources is a tremendous concern. With that, I'll pause for any questions.
Members, any questions for Mr. Donald at this point? Councilwoman Trammell, I believe.
I have a question.
Yes, Councilwoman Trammell.
Let's get one thing straight. When Richie does the assessments, he has to assess them at fair market price. So let's not put the blame on our assessor. He's only doing his job.
There's no blame on the assessor.
No, because I'm just saying he has to do his job. And he's been to meeting after meeting saying that, hey, if y'all want to see a little bit more money in your pocket, you have to come to council and talk to them to lower the real estate tax. You've given everything as far as like saying why we can't do it. I know you would not take a reduction in your pay. No.
Not looking for one. I'm looking to manage the government at the
Well,
budget
you're
that
not going
it
to take a
is.
reduction in your pay, and neither is some of the others that are making a hell of a lot more than what the people in my district are making. And I'm sorry that a lot of them won't here tonight, but I have a lot of elderly now that are not able to come here and stay here until 8, 9 o'clock at night because dialysis and because of the money, the other health conditions that they have and all of that. You've been to several of my meetings. You have seen what comes to our meeting. 99% of them are seniors. And they're struggling, and they have said it. So they've asked me, they're texting me, calling me, saying all day today, please, think about us tonight. Because there's going to be people down there that's going to say, oh, don't do this, don't do that. That, you can have this in your pocketbook, you can have that. It's sad. It is sad. And especially when I have others that say we've lost our husband, our wife, or whatever. We only have one income coming into our home right now. And we have a lot of medical bills and everything else. But what I don't understand, how can we sit here and say that we care about the people? How do we sit in these seats and say we really, really care? Now, 3 years from now, oh yeah, we're going to definitely say we care. We're going to definitely try to do something. I've seen it over and over and over. And with Governor Wilder, what I don't understand, what was that, 17 years ago? He reduced it by 27 cents, the real estate tax. I didn't have no 10 developers in my district building. I couldn't even get a 1. I couldn't get a 1. I have it now. Look at all the money that's coming into this city. And you know what the citizens are asking me? Where is it going? And I know you just sit up here and said all this stuff about we got to pay this, we got to pay that, collective bargaining. What was the excuse when we didn't have collective bargaining? What was the excuse? We still couldn't reduce it. And not only that, when you got $31 million that's not been collected, $31 million, and it's more than that. It's probably $90 million. When you think about all the other taxes that have not been paid, and we don't go after them because it's inhumane. Well, it's inhumane for our citizens that live in their homes for years and years and years and years. And I'll just speak for my district, went through all the crime, 160 homicides back in the day. They stayed in their homes. They paid their taxes. They struggled. They worked 2 jobs. They were cleaning office buildings. They were cleaning whatever they could clean, cutting grass, doing whatever they could to keep a roof over their heads with their children. And what do? It's not just administration. Blame it on us too, because we've not did our job. We've not made you, or I'm sorry, you just got here. Others, I know, you just got here. What, not even 3 months? But like I said, you won't take a cut in your pay, and, But anyway, they are struggling. And I'm tired of people saying, what is a few little dollars? You go to the grocery store like I do, go to CVS, go to some of the other drugstores, and see them try to pay their bills where their card has been denied. And then what's going to happen tomorrow if there's a whole lot of workers that get laid off because we're still in a shutdown? Have we talked about that yet? That doesn't affect City Council. We're not doing it. It's up there, and it's everywhere else. It's every party there is that's not coming together to try to stop this shutdown. I'm just saying, I don't feel good when I'm sitting here listening that we should not. 4 cents, and like I told the mayor, he said 4 cents, then drop it 8 cents, drop it 12 cents. What's 4 cents? Drop it more. If Governor Wilder could do 17 cents, then we didn't have half this development going on. How come we can't even do 4 cents? But, this is not going to be the end of this conversation. I'm quite sure I don't have the votes tonight. I'm quite sure of that. And I think it's a damn shame, because I hope the citizens blame every one of us that's sitting up here, not just you, the CAO, not just the mayor, wherever he's at, not just him, but every one of us should be blamed. And I'm going to tell you right now, when these assessments, they're not going to stop. They're going to keep doubling, going up and up and up. And then when the freeze comes off in 2028, what's going to happen? How many people will be down here screaming and crying because they're homeless? How many people will be down here screaming and crying when the landlords have to raise your rents? And it's going to happen because people can't come up with $20,000, $30,000 to put down on a home or a townhouse. Think about all of that. But I appreciate you coming up here, spilling it out, giving us what you have to do to make us change our mind or not get our votes that we needed tonight. I appreciate that.
Thank
I'll give
you.
you a quick response to your questions or your comments, because I think you actually helped to prove my point, council member. So I agree with you. You did a great job on the assessments, does a great job on the assessments, and that's actually what he's doing. He's assessing. He's assessing what the value is, and those values are in place, and those values are rising. I did, as you mentioned, came to your council, to your town hall twice. You were the first two meetings that I attended. First one was when, within 1 week of attending, your folks asked for Southside Plaza not to close, and in the second meeting, I came bearing good news that Southside wouldn't close, and we were enhancing services, which also cost money. I met with Mr. Jerry Blow separately from your team over there. We had a great talk about these assessments and was able to kind of highlight to him what happens with these challenges that I just went over. And he also had a very similar position. I think the key is that we have committed, and you asked what the council has done, with you included. I think y'all have done a great job. You're putting about $100 million into affordable housing. You have increased the wages of your staff. You've made it where firefighters and police officers want to work for the city, and we are growing the number of them who deliver service. In addition to that, when it comes to the government shutdown, we'll be releasing our full report on the impacts of the government shutdown by the end of this week. I don't think anybody else in the region has done that, and we've done that with the staff that you guys are paying for. And the impacts of the government shutdown are exactly why we have to maintain these dollars. If the federal government does not provide these services, if they don't provide the services for which I think close to $100 million flows to the city, those things have to be provided somehow, some way, or they go away.
Thank you. Councilwoman.
Thank you. I appreciate that you just said that you met with one of Jerry Blow that lives in my district. I don't think I was in on that conversation. Y'all, no, I was not.
No, ma'am.
But I've had a conversation with him too, and I think he's been to my meetings for the past, oh my goodness, maybe, I guess 12 years or whatever. He has seen the people get older. He has seen them struggling. He has seen what is going on. So I will have another conversation with Jerry, probably tonight, and his wife. But I appreciate you talking to him, and I wasn't there. But anyway, you talk about the shutdown for tomorrow and what's going to happen if people don't have the money to pay their mortgages. What's going to happen if people can't put food on their table? What's going to happen when the people don't have the money to go to the doctor? Go after your $31 million or the $90 million that's total. Go after that. That would definitely help a lot. And I bet we could probably reduce the real estate tax more than 4 cents? Probably a whole lot more. Yeah, that's good right there. And then you talk about paying police and fire and all that. Yeah, but you have to look at all the vacancies in our police department. 160 officers, are those vacancies still being paid or money put in there? I don't think so, but I don't know. Talk about the fire department, I think they're okay. You talk about public works, public utilities, I don't think they're okay. You talk about our finance, I don't think they're okay.
I agree.
But the money is still there. The money is not being paid to them. Where's the money? That's what I'm being asked.
Did you want me to answer that?
Please.
Yeah, so again, I think you're proving my point. So with police, for example, with those 160 vacancies, so we know, and I know with you being over public safety, that's an area in which you're very dedicated to. Those folks run towards the danger while we're running away from it. Hasn't been the most attractive job recently for a variety of reasons, whether it's our new environment, whether some folks want to defund the police, other folks want to increase, some people want to have extra scrutiny, some people believe that it's a balance of accountability. One thing we do know is that the cost, because I know you mentioned Governor Wilder or former Mayor Wilder, during that time, the dollar meant something much different than it does now. The cost of a police officer has increased quite a bit since that time. Even now, for our 160 vacancies, we're covering those funds many times through overtime, whether that be fire or police. And so those funds exist, and sounds like we have to do a better job, and I know Councilmember Robertson has been asking us and working with us to improve and increase those reports so that you get the information that you need, because those dollars are definitely being spent. When you don't have someone in a position, especially for public safety, you end up having to provide additional funding and overtime so that people will cover those shifts. One way or the other, we have to make sure our residents are protected.
And I appreciate that, Odie, but you know what? When Governor Wilder was here, I think it was only like 197,000 citizens in the city of Richmond. Now it's over 222,000 and growing every single day. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donald. Councilmember Lynch, did you?
Sure. And thank you. I'll try to be very brief. You know, historically, I've never supported, never signed on to the paper to roll back the rate. But this year, after we were told that we were budgeting for a deficit of $30 million in the hole, after seeing some of my neighbors in the South Side who are legacy neighbors who live next to people that have moved in who are making maybe 8 times what they're making in annual fixed income, see double-digit increases, and then for us to go back to 32% increases, 19% increases at a flat tax rate of 120, and then for us, for me, to turn around and justify to them that we're going to keep the tax rate the same in a year where we have yet another surplus, and I know we will have one. I know you're telling me we won't, but we will. It is not about what is being done to cut it this year and the maybe $12 a month that you get in savings a month. It's about doing this every year to keep the cost of living commensurate to operating the city budget. So I'm going to ask you 3 questions. 1, year over year, do you know how much in additional revenue we have collected from the real estate taxes from the residents of Richmond since 2020?
Sure, I can get you that number here shortly, and I'm going to write down all your questions. Unless you have the answer and you want to give it to me. No, I can't tell if you're asking me the question.
I'm asking you because you're the CAO, but from what I have seen, we have experienced a 27% growth in our general fund operating budget.
Okay.
We went from collecting about $302 million in real estate tax revenue to today collecting over 500-something million, 506 million in real estate taxes. So the question is, we have to fund our city budget, and we have to fully fund it, and we have to invest in programs, and we have to, by the way, continue. It saddens me that we sit here and we make a dichotomy, and we pit SEIU, we pit collective bargaining, we make these issues divisive as if somehow somehow if we don't maintain the operating budget, that we will not commit to doing the things and funding the programs and funding the investments that we have said that we are going to do. But the growth of our budget and the revenue that we're collecting from real estate, from the real estate taxes from residents. My question is, At what point do we say, hey, maybe we need to ratchet it back because our city budget has grown 27%? Maybe we need to find a way to be just a little bit more efficient because we can't continue to grow our budget $30, $40 million a year every year, $50 million a year last year, $100 million a year in some of the years I've been on council. We can't do that and continue to maintain and grow the operating budget and do that off the backs of our taxpayers. Now that'd be fine. I'd be down with that if we were giving cutting checks to all the people that are making $15 an hour. If we were actually redistributing wealth, because I'm a huge fan of radical redistribution of wealth. I supported the Family Crisis Fund, for which we are only putting $1 million. That is the only way to equitably redistribute wealth in this city. That's the only way that we have a way to keep people from getting evicted, to help them with your utilities, to supplement their household budgets. That's it. That's the only way that we have to do that for lower income people in this city. But if the city really cared about funding the programs and being equitable, we'd be doing a hell of a lot more than just $1 million a year, because there's about $20 million of need. So if we were actually doing equitable redistribution of wealth with our tax dollars, I could maybe get down with it, but we're not. We're growing the operating budget for the city. We need to figure out how to really budget within our means, because we can't. You have to tell me, maybe that's justified. Maybe our costs are going up by $50 million a year, but I don't think they are. I don't think that they are. I know that they're not. I know what we've added from year over year, and we can do better, and people are asking us to do better. So that's my question to you: is what has been our operational inflationary adjustment? So what's appropriate? And then let's figure that out and budget to a tax rate to that. And let's chip away at it every year. So maybe this year we only roll it back 2 cents. Maybe in 2 years we roll back another 2 cents, so that what we're collecting keeps up with the cost of our operating budget with an inflationary adjustment. But not much more than that, because the people can't afford it.
Would you like me to respond? All righty. So great statistics that you threw out there, but I want to just add some context to those as well. So you've had 27% growth in the budget. 509 million is that number. You also talked about the operational dollars where a lot of that growth has occurred. It does not highlight that over the past 8 years, and I know the superintendent for RPS, and I just learned this in the meetings, I think that you're a part of that group, there have been historic investments in RPS, and those investments have resulted in historic results, some of which he shared today. As a matter of fact, I think that number is around 30%, but I'll get it directly from their slides and make sure that I distribute it to the full council. But that's one piece, and that's coming from your operational funds that, because you fund, they don't have their own taxing authority, we fund those here through our operations. So you've actually reinvested a lot of that growth into education. Very prudent investment, because those folks that you're invested in now are the Richmonders of the future, and we're preparing them for what seems to be a tight job market as well as a rising real estate market. In addition to that, as I mentioned earlier, you've not met your fund balance goals. So, homeowner, I'm a homeowner, I think many of you are. You're a homeowner, you have to save money to be able to take care of a rainy day. The city's goal is actually 20%. It's about 3 months. So taking that to a homeowner, if we were to lose our jobs, we want to be able to survive at least 3 months so that we're able to get another job. Regardless of these increases, the city is not in a position to do that today. So what that means is, I don't disagree with you. I think part of the reason I'm here is to help get us to that point. To be able to say, hey, we need to be able to get our fund balance to a point that we are able to survive if we have a catastrophe. I don't know if we've been reading what's going on right now when it comes to federal budgets and some of the activities that are taking place there. Sounds like a catastrophe to me. And so with those challenges, along with the real estate market where the assessments are going up and there are less people who are paying for them, because we also have more than $10 billion in real estate that we're not collecting on, which, by the way, is the crux of our issue. Because if we collected 20% of that, financial position is completely different. And so you're right. I think I may disagree with the how. I fully agree with the what. I don't love that SEIU is here having to defend the position to maintain, funding for the CBA. We made a contractual commitment. We have to keep that no matter what. That's not where the squeeze is, because you got to take care of that first. The squeeze is on those things that are not core services, those things that also help the growth of the city. I've heard commitments from just about every council member here around affordable housing, which is not a core service, but in Richmond it is, because affordable housing stock is something we must have to maintain and grow the city. So again, you're not going to get me to disagree with you, and we have to find a solution to this. I think the disagreement with the administration is just that the 120 doesn't resolve the problem for us.
Thank you, Mr. Donald. Are there other questions from members from Mr. Donald? And we will complete the discussion thereafter and move on to decisioning on the papers. Councilmember Abubakar.
I don't have a question for Mr. Donald, but Ms. Trammell asked me to speak on behalf of the patrons of the $16 bill. So whenever that's done, I can.
That is fine. Let me just check. Ms. Gibson, did you have a question for? Okay. Ms. Abubakar.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to first start by completing the sentence for both of these bills that our clerk read out, because we stopped halfway through, and I understand why for brevity, but each says, to amend city code concerning the levy of the real estate tax, to establish a tax code rate of $1.20, blah, 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 and increasing such rate from the rollback rate of $1.14 as computed in accordance with the Virginia Code. The same goes with the $16. In both cases, we are, in fact, raising your real estate taxes. It's just, that's not subjective, that's not interpretation. The lawyers had to put that in there because that is in the code. That being said, as Mr. Donald said, the code, the rollback rate or equalization rate is a disclosure, but the disclosure's intention is that we would actually react to what is happening and what is good for the people. And I will say that the equalization is meant to be a counterbalance and to offset increasing rising assessments so that we can create stability for residents. It was also said that we've made a lot of commitments as a city. I'd say we just made a few more. I think seeing SEIU here tells me that they're worried about getting $20 an hour for contracted workers, and they're thinking that this is going to be the difference. I hope it is. If it is, this will all be worth it. But let's see. The firefighters, I hope that they are fully funded with this. I really, really do. I just hope each of you that came up, RPS, that when the time comes for your bill to be paid, you are ready to collect and that they are ready to pay out. I find it disappointing that we continue to speak about housing affordability in this city, and we are not having a true conversation that unifies everyone. Yes, the real estate tax does affect and give more money to people who paid more real estate. There's no two ways about that. And to my colleague's point, if we were investing in targeted relief to those who needed it most and doing it sustainably and efficiently, I would not be up here talking about this. But I will also say that we have to stop seeing this as a socioeconomic issue that impacts one group or another and that we are at odds. That is how we will always fail on all of the spectrum. Truly. Because if you are able to afford a house, one, we talk about housing affordability in the city now. It used to be that housing affordability was when we were building houses for people to move into and to buy so that they could create generational wealth. Since I have been on council, all I am hearing about is subsidized apartments that are being owned by corporate people, corporate developers, whether they are benevolent and live in this community or they don't live in this community. So let's be clear about what we are investing in as a city when it comes to affordable housing and for tenants. Number two, if you are so lucky, I am privileged. I bought a house almost 20 years ago. If you are so lucky to do that, or you are so lucky as to be able to find a program where you can buy a house, I hope you can stay in it. Because we talk about rent gouging, but to be clear, since 2021, assessments have gone up 47% in this city. Some people's, mine included, almost 70%. That's almost $1,000 more a month that I have to find. And I know, and that's why when people come to speak to me about rent gouging, I deeply empathize with that. Because the city's just a rent gouger as well, truly. And if we don't look at this as a holistic issue across the socioeconomic spectrum, then we are failing ourselves because we will not be able to continue to be the Richmond that is interesting and diverse and full of people who have lived here for years that are mixing with people who are just moving here. So for me, this issue is deeply personal, and I actually think it's deeply unifying. And I hope that as we go along in this conversation, and I think this dialogue is super, super important. We don't have the votes for it. Just as easy as that. But the conversation is important to the people. And for many years, as my colleague said, the conversation either was glossed over, didn't happen, or people weren't participating in the process. And to this day, I don't think people are participating in the process. I've seen many people who are here that may not have spoken, but are here because they wanted to be a part of this process. I hope that we continue to have these conversations because we should not take lightly taking taxpayer dollars.
Councilwoman Gibson.
Thank you, Madam President. So I wanted to, when I knocked doors, what the unifying message I heard was people are spending more, whether it be through rent or otherwise, and services are not improving. And so, I take that message to heart. People want to know where the money is going, and I'm doing what I can to bring more transparency to the process. And transparency comes in many different flavors. And in this discussion, it looks like an analysis, a financial analysis, to get to an answer. And we haven't seen that. In fiscal year 2024, there was a $43 million surplus. We learned that late It was actually in January when the audit, the CAFR, the ACAFR, you know, the acronyms changed. That came out in January, right around when we were working on the budget. And so of that $43 million, about $17 million came through an excess of revenue over what was budgeted for real property tax. And then through a kind of comedy of errors a bit, right, that was then returned back to the public in some delayed checks and a couple news headlines. But we, the rest of the $42 million, right, so $17 million we sent in checks, and the rest of it didn't go to the schools, didn't go to provide salary increases for our contracted workers to provide them with a living wage. It didn't go to growing the family crisis plan. It didn't go to any number of services that I can and will continue to advocate for. The way that the surplus is broken down is defined in our city code. 50% of it goes to a downtown reserve fund. 40% of it goes to a capital maintenance reserve. So basically 90% of the surplus goes into some reserves that most residents may not appreciate while they're here in Richmond. And look, I'm all about being financially responsible, but I do not know that siphoning somewhere around $30 million is necessarily providing us with the fiscal responsibility and providing and delivering the services that we need. So so in January, when we were working on the budget, or actually no, we got the budget in March. When that happened, I remember feeling like, hey, we just heard about this big surplus. It seems like there's probably more money we could be working with to be able to fund those things. And, we were told, look, the assessments aren't out there, and this is just a projection. Well, now here we are, 6 months later, the assessments are out. We've adopted a budget that had the projection of $503 million. And so the question on the table today is, what does the tax rate need to be to get to the $503 million? And I don't believe we've gotten that answer. And we also don't know what the surplus is, which might help us to determine that. And so, look, I mean, I would love to vote for $1.20 and signal that I care about delivering these services, but I'm just saying, like, based on our city code, right, that the money is not going to deliver on those things. And so, and as a person who believes in transparency, without having the necessary information to complete my homework assignment, I would feel like a fraud. So, so for some reason, this body in June of 2024, prior to myself and several of us being on the body, voted to extend the deadline by which we, council, and as council gets it later, that means the public gets it later, information about the surplus. So, so we do not now, we're now not getting any information about the surplus until November, well, the deadline is November 15th. Which means that we now don't have access to that information by which to make this decision. And that's unfortunate. Likewise, okay, say there's extra revenue during the course of the year. I mean, the only way that if there's more money that we get than what we are going to use, than what we budgeted for, the only way this body is able to do anything and put that money to some other use is, and I'll read it as what it says in the code. It says, if at any time, this is section 6.16, amendments after adoption, this is in our city ordinance, it says if at any time during the fiscal year the mayor certifies that there are available appropriation revenues in excess of those estimated in the budget, the City Council may not, by less than 6 affirmative votes and only upon the recommendation of the mayor, make supplemental appropriations for the year up to the amount of such excesses. So it seems unlikely that we're able to actually put the additional money to use in the way that the city needs. So I'm going to abstain. I don't like it. You know, I want to be able to say, hey, here's my argument to justify the higher rate. But the way that the code is structured, that's not what this is, right? So the question that we would need to have the information on is, A, what is the rate we would need to have to justify, to get to $503 million? And that means we would look at the assessment, we would have an understanding about the assessed value of new construction, we would understand and take into consideration how much we are receiving from the percentage of which things people are actually paying, right? That information, some type of estimate, numbers in charts, right, to give us the information to say this is what the rate needs to be. Now, there is the question of next year's budget, okay? However, what I will say is there is nothing, I don't believe there's anything to stop us or the city from developing 2 versions of the budget. There are ways that we can be both thoughtful looking forward and responsible looking back. I believe there are. And if they're not, I'm completely open to looking at the policy to get there. But look, this body has made a commitment to aligning our fiscal calendar so that we can make better decisions. But I right now question whether that will happen or not, because here we are in this moment of time with more information by which to make a decision, and for some reason the information is not there. So, yeah, I still think that we should allow more time. There's no reason why we should not, at the very least, have the surplus data. There's no reason. Every other year, the surplus data has been available. And every other year, this body has voted for the past decade in November. So why this year? Why has it been pushed off? Why are we voting earlier? Why is the information available later? It doesn't make any sense. And so I plan to abstain. In the meantime, my commitment is to look and see what vehicles we have as a body to create a process that allows us to make a decision that we can argue and defend either way. You know, I mean, look, I know raising tax, it's not, people don't want to pay more. I want to be able to defend it and say this is why, right? But the information is simply not there. And I understand the moral argument of, wanting to just be safe, but like we're talking about tens of millions of dollars here that do impact everyone. And, it's a dollar amount. Does it hit people who make more and have more expensive homes? Absolutely. But like Highland Park, the average increase from assessments is like over 15%. And this is a working class neighborhood where most of the folks are renters. And do those costs likely get pushed to the renters? Yes, they do. So I don't believe that I can take the position of being in the moral right in this moment in time without having the information to be able to clearly make that claim. I want to do it. I want to be able to provide the additional funding for the schools. But if this money is not going to be able to go there, I can't see a path right now to say yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Jones.
Thank you, Madam President. This is a lot. This is intense. But I feel like I just wanted to speak to this based on all of what I'm hearing from my colleagues, because I want to be clear that as a sitting council member and as a council member who was here last year when this tax issue was brought up and the same situation happened, you know, I think the onus is really, or becomes, we knew what the I'm gonna say I knew what the tax rate was in January. I knew what the assessments were in January. I knew what we were charging folks and what was. And so, one, to say that voting against it is because you don't understand, or like, no one's gonna tell me that what I'm doing relative for the people, because I know what I do and why I sit in this seat. But at the same time, and in the same context, there is a both and the both and is council's role and what it is that we're supposed to be doing. And when we want to say, this is the law, we're supposed to do this, I'm of the mindset, the law should be the law all year. Not when we're ready to vote on a situation, not when it's time to make these tough decisions. And as many of you stated, pit us against one another as if we're all not working for the betterment of the people, because we are. And at the same time, and in the same context on the city side, when you talk about the money, the surplus, needing the information, all of these things, I personally don't necessarily see how it's going to change what we're asking. But I would like to say that I know if we can't have information on surplus numbers, or you want us to make this decision prior to November, how do we take into account, because I'm just going to be flat out. I've already heard people talk about new projects and new things that they want to do, and none of them are related to what we are talking about. Housing, rent gouging, any of that, none of them. None of them. None of them are talking about keeping people in their houses. None of them are talking about the decades and decades and decades of catch-up that we have to do, that we are playing. None of it. And so when we go back with this debate about should we lower it, whether we, if it's the right number, if it's not the right number, I think you named it right, my colleague, Ms. Abubakar, about we should be working in tandem, and these conversations need to happen. Like, this is not the place for it. This is not it. Like, to have folks on edge based on decisions that we need to make, in my opinion, I feel like I'm doing a disservice. And I want to know, how do we do that better? And so I'm not voting for it tonight because I made a choice when I voted for the budget. And I'm just going to be clear about that. And the reason why we voted for it, because this is what was presented, this is what we did, but I want to be clear when we begin to make this notion that what someone votes discounts, you're not for the people, because that is not the case. And I want to be able to, as we, like how I want to be able to show what we're doing is either moving us closer to equity and not further away. And right now, we don't have none of that. We don't have nothing that is going to show that by changing this rate or the rate that we keep is actually going to get us to where we need to be. And I heard the notion that we're voting blindly. We're not voting blindly. We already voted. We already voted for the budget. So how are we voting blindly? Because we knew. I knew. I want to be clear. I knew. And in the conversation that we just had in informal about reducing the poverty rate, how are we going to do that if we know that cutting a budget or cutting taxes is going to cut services? And it's easy to say, let's cut these taxes, or we don't know what services. I'm not willing to bet on what services is going to get cut in this moment. I'm just not. Because I already know that I'm already behind. So when we, really, I think this is a conversation that needs to happen, and it needs to continue to happen. And I think we need to get serious on what our priorities are. Because I know I'm watching. I'm watching for whatever I see new come out the door after we've saying we would have to cut taxes. We would have to cut services. And I'm going to continue to be watching that, because of the fact that we can't use this moment as someone said earlier, to be divisive and put us against each other and make us look like, again, what we vote for affects their lives. We cannot play with people's lives like that. And while the reality of it is, if we cut the tax rate, yes, we will more than likely lose services, but that's not on our part because we don't run operations. And so I just wanted to, I feel the need to say that because it's pressed upon my heart, because Ms. Trammell, she's brung this paper before, she has. And a lot of what she's sharing is legit. I feel you, and I understand, but I also know what my commitment to what I do and what I feel as a council member. But you're not wrong, and you're not off, and you're not by no means out of line with what you're sharing as it relates to the people, Southside, and what we need to do. And I really hope that this is being heard, and I really hope that you folks really do begin to do something different with the money that's extra, but not using the extra money as a one-time thing, because that could also be part of the problem. We get this surplus, we use it, but there are some things that we really need to address as a city. We've heard it about the delinquent property tax, we have a lot that we need to work on. And so I just felt like I needed to say, I've shared with residents in my district where I stand on it, and I'm not voting on it simply because we have more work to do. And that's where I stand on it, but I felt like I needed to say that publicly, because when we start this back and forth about who's doing what for the people, we don't need to try to upstage each other, because we all here to do the same thing for each of our constituents and for the city as a whole. So I felt like I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a few brief comments. I don't think there's anyone up here who would not like to look at reducing the real estate tax rate for all the reasons that have been mentioned. However, for me in this moment, given the obligations we have, given the unknowns in terms of federal mandates and funding, given our level of support that we still are committed to providing, whether it's healthcare or retirement or community benefits or Richmond Public Schools, and notwithstanding the midterm impact of making a change at this point on budget and the implications. We have requested $40 million a year for the next 2 years from the state to address water. Even if we got that, which is questionable since we just had to pay $5.8 million mandated by the state, even if we got all of that, we still have incredible, unanticipated infrastructure challenges around water. And let me just say, I'm not holding my breath on the fact that we may get all of that. I just have to see that. We still do not receive taxes for many of the properties that are right in this capital city that would address many of the challenges we're facing. So it's the opportunity for the calendar alignment, I think, will be critical. I think we need to be vigilant in that regard in terms of looking at real estate tax rate as we move forward. We cannot underestimate the federal impact that I think portends some major challenges for our community in terms of health care, access to benefits, et cetera, et cetera. We have still major obligations we have to adhere to. We have CIP projects, and so, yeah, we say, well, okay, we have 17 million, maybe, as surplus. If we don't get the funding, we don't know. We've requested from the state, even at collecting the
30 million, and I think we need to do that. Let's be clear, we need to do that. It would not completely allow us to address some of the challenges before us. Housing is absolutely a challenge. We've made investment, but you know we're not there. And we put fairly significant dollars, Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Targeted relief, we put some, but not nearly what's needed. We have a variety of other areas that we've invested that we have not counted as targeted relief, but there are others. And so, again, I look forward to when we will be able to reduce the tax rate. I do not see that in this moment, given all the variables that have been shared by the administration, certainly all of the external variables that we have no control over coming down the pike. Yes, and so for me, I would not be able to vote to reduce the real estate tax rate at this time, but look forward to us doing our due diligence to get to a place where we can have that kind of discussion and more substantive discussion, even based on all of the areas and categories for consideration in terms of our budget. So with that, I believe we are at a place of voting on papers.
Madam President, which ordinance would you like me to call the question on first?
Okay, so out of committee, the 120 was the paper that came for recommended, but there's a request to do the 114 first. 116 first.
So that is item 32, ordinance number 2025-208, correct?
Yes, correct.
Council is now voting on item 32, ordinance number 2025-208 as presented. Mr. Breton?
This is the 116 that we're voting on?
Correct.
No.
Ms. Gibson?
Abstain.
Ms. Jones?
No.
Ms. Robertson?
No.
Ms. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Trammell?
Aye.
Ms. Abubakar?
Aye.
Vice President Jordan?
No.
And President Newbill?
No.
That paper has not been adopted.
Thank you. Let's proceed to the next.
Council is now voting on item number 31, ordinance number 2025-207 as read. Mr. Breton?
Aye.
Ms. Gibson?
Abstain.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Ms. Robertson?
Aye.
Ms. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Trammell?
Aye.
Ms. Abubakar?
No.
I meant no. I'm sorry. No.
That has been corrected.
Thank you.
Vice President Jordan?
Aye.
And President Newbill?
Aye.
That paper has been adopted.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's proceed, if you will, to the next agenda item. And I believe we are at the point of bids. Is that correct?
That is correct. So items 26, 27, and 28 to be taken together, correct?
That's correct.
Items 26, 27, and 28 on this evening's regular agenda are ordinance numbers 2025-184, 2025-185, and 2025-186 respectively, each to provide for the granting by the city to the person, firm, or corporation to be ascertained in the manner prescribed by law of an easement upon, over, under, and across certain properties known as Thomas B. Smith Community Center, Luxfield Community Center, and St. Mary's Hospital for the construction, maintenance, and operation of improvements and associated appurtenances for the generation, distribution, and transmission of electricity in accordance with certain right-of-way agreements.
Madam Clerk, I believe we have a bidding process to complete for these items.
Madam President, that is correct. I received one bid for each item in accordance with the advertisement. I previously marked the bids for identification and provided them to you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. For the public's information, I am going to
asks that you will briefly summarize the bids to satisfy, and I think the bids each accompanied by a performance bond in the amount of $50 to satisfy the statutory bonding requirement are received from Dominion Energy Virginia, which states that it is ready and able to perform all operations and obligations under the right-of-way agreements, and that it is qualified to undertake the construction, maintenance, and operation of improvements and associated appurtenances for the generation, distribution, and transmission of electricity described in each right-of-way agreement. Are there any other persons present who wish to offer a bid for agenda items 26, 27, and 28? And if so, please approach the podium or indicate by raising your hand using the appropriate feature in the Microsoft Teams application. Okay. There being no further bids offered, I hereby declare the bidding closed for ordinances 2025-184, 2025-185, 2025-186. At this time, we will ask staff to present any recommendations relative to the bid received for each ordinance. I believe that's you, Mr. Donald. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Good evening, President Newbill, honorable members of City Council. The administration recommends acceptance of the 3 bids for the 3 ordinances.
Thank you. The bids from Dominion Energy Virginia are the only bids received for the right-of-way agreements the ordinances would authorize. If no member of council desires to move that these ordinances be continued for further investigation or staff review, let's proceed with the public hearing on items 26, 27, and 28. Accordingly, please note a separate motion will be necessary for each item. Is there, at this point, is there a motion to accept the bid from Dominion Energy?
So moved.
Madam President, we do need to hold
Yeah,
the public hearing
yes,
first.
I'm sorry. I lost sight there. At this point, we will proceed with the public hearing relative to this item. If there are persons desires of speaking in opposition, if you would come forward. Are there persons present desirous of speaking in favor? If you would come forward. Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Bring it back to the body for any discussion. Seeing none, is there a motion to accept the bid from Dominion Energy Virginia and to adopt ordinance number 2025-184 to start?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Council is now voting to accept the bid from Dominion Energy Virginia and to adopt ordinance number 2025-184 as read. Mr. Breton?
Aye.
Ms. Gibson?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Ms. Robertson?
Aye.
Ms. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Trammell?
Aye.
Ms. Abubakar?
Aye.
Vice President Jordan?
Aye.
And President Newbill?
Aye.
That motion has been approved and that paper has been adopted.
Thank you. Let's proceed to the next item.
Madam President, we do need 2 additional motions pertaining to the other 2 ordinances.
That's correct. Might I have motions?
So moved.
So we have a motion on both. If we could proceed, Madam Clerk.
So we will need an additional motion after this. We need 3 separate motions for each of these ordinances. So the second motion is to accept the bid from Dominion Energy Virginia and to adopt ordinance number 2025-185 as read. Mr. Breton?
Aye.
Ms. Gibson?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Ms. Robertson?
Aye.
Ms. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Trammell?
Aye.
Ms. Abubakar?
Aye.
Vice President Jordan?
Aye.
And President Newbill?
Aye. Let's proceed with the last item there.
Is there a motion to accept the bid from Dominion Energy and to adopt ordinance number 2025-186?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Council is now voting on the motion to accept the bid from Dominion Energy Virginia and to adopt ordinance number 2025-186 accordingly. Mr. Breton.
Aye.
Ms. Gibson.
Yes.
Ms. Jones.
Aye.
Ms. Robertson.
Aye.
Ms. Lynch.
Aye.
Ms. Trammell.
Aye.
Ms. Abubakar.
Aye.
Vice President Jordan.
Aye.
And President Newbill.
Aye.
That motion has been approved and that paper has been adopted.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's take up item 30, please.
Item 30 is ordinance number 2025-191 to provide for the granting by the city to the person, firm, or corporation to be ascertained in the manner prescribed by law of the franchise right and privilege to install and maintain a solar farm and pollinator meadow located at 3800 East Richmond Road in accordance with a certain ground lease.
Thank you. I believe we also have a bidding process to complete for this item as well.
Madam President, that is correct. I have received one bid in accordance with the advertisement. I previously marked the bid for identification and provided it to you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. For the public's information, I will now briefly summarize the bid. Amerisco states that it is ready and able to perform the operations under the ground lease and that it is qualified to undertake the installation and maintenance of a solar farm and pollinator meadow located at 3800 East Richmond Road in accordance with a certain ground lease. Are there any other persons present who wish to offer any further bids? If so, if you would please approach the podium or indicate by raising your hand using the appropriate feature in the Microsoft Teams application. There being no further bids offered, I declare the bidding closed. At this time, we will ask staff to present any recommendations related to the bid.
Good evening, Council President, Vice President, Council members. Laura Thomas, Director of Sustainability. The suggestion and recommendation is to accept the bid.
Thank you. The bid from Amerisco is the only bid received for this ground lease. If no member of council desires to move that this ordinance be continued for further investigation or staff review, let's proceed with the public hearing on this item. Councilman Breton?
I'm trying to make sure I understand. I believe I received a presentation about this during land use, and I asked about the bidding process, and I thought we had multiple bids for this project. Am I getting this confused with a separate project?
Hi, yes. So staff conducted an RFI process back in August of last year in which we received 7 different individual organizations expressing interest. We then conducted our panel interviews, cross-departmental, and then worked with the top vendor to make sure that we could get a solid contract form. That contract was then what was put out to bid during this process, and during this legal process, only one bid was received, and we recommend moving forward with that bid.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. At this point, we'll proceed with the public hearing on this item. Do we have persons present desirous of speaking in opposition to this paper? Seeing none, do we have persons present desirous of speaking in favor of this paper? Please come forward.
Hi, City Council. My name is Casey Miller. I'm a resident and runner in the city of Richmond in the 7th District. I'm speaking in support of this, but just would like to make a note that I would like this sort of transparency as far as the bidding process to maybe be more open towards public being informed about this so we can do our due diligence and understanding exactly who these groups are that we're interested in doing these bids with, just to ensure that we can do our due process of ensuring that they will do and be held to the standard that we would like them to. But otherwise, I fully support this, and especially the measures that are going in to ensure that this is going to be something that benefits the community as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Seeing no other persons desirous of speaking, the public hearing is
now close, bring it back to council for any discussion.
Motion to approve. Second.
Just would like to add in discussion at this point, there is and there will be a community benefit agreement that the community will be engaged in with this entity, and so that will come forward as a part of the project. So with that, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, can we go on and call the vote?
Council is now voting on the motion to accept a bid from Amerisco, Inc. and to adopt ordinance number 2025-191 accordingly. Mr. Breton?
Aye.
Ms. Gibson?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Ms. Robertson?
Aye.
Ms. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Trammell?
Aye.
Ms. Abubakar?
Aye.
Vice President Jordan?
Aye.
And President Newbill?
Aye.
That motion has been approved and that paper has been adopted.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Are there papers to be amended?
Yes, there are several. And the first before you is a motion to amend ordinance number 2025-161, which amends City Code for the purpose of establishing a rental inspection program. And the proposed amendment would modify certain considerations and limitations for district designation. Councilmember Jones, would you please make the motion to amend and continue this ordinance to the Monday, November 10th council meeting?
So moved.
Councilmember Gibson, will you second that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Council is now voting on the motion to amend and continue ordinance number 2025-161 to the Monday, November 10th council meeting as stated. Mr. Breton?
Aye.
Ms. Gibson?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Ms. Robertson?
Aye.
Ms. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Trammell?
Aye.
Ms. Abubakar?
Aye.
Vice President Jordan? President Newbill?
Aye.
That motion was approved and that paper as amended will be before you again on November 10th. Next before you is a motion to amend ordinance number 2025-174, which authorizes the conditional use of 16 East Marshall Street for the purpose of a nightclub, and the proposed amendment would modify certain terms and conditions of that conditional use. Vice President Jordan, would you make a motion to amend and continue this ordinance to the Monday, November 10th council meeting?
So moved.
Councilmember Robertson, will you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Council is now voting on the motion to amend and continue ordinance number 2025-174 to the Monday, November 10th council meeting as stated. Mr. Breton?
Aye.
Ms. Gibson?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Ms. Robertson?
Aye.
Ms. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Trammell?
Aye.
Ms. Abubakar?
Aye.
Vice President Jordan? And President Newbill?
Aye.
That motion has been approved and that paper as amended will be before you again on November 10th. Next before you is a motion to amend ordinance number 2025-210, which amends City Code concerning definitions related to open data and a transparency program, and by adding therein a new section for the purpose of establishing an online Freedom of Information Act library, and the proposed amendment would modify certain exceptions. Councilmember Gibson, would you please make the motion to amend and continue this ordinance to the Monday, November 10th council meeting?
So moved.
Councilmember Abubakar, will you second that, please?
Second.
Thank you. Council is now voting on the motion to amend and continue ordinance number 2025-210 to the Monday, November 10th council meeting as read. Mr. Breton?
Aye.
Ms. Gibson?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Ms. Robertson?
Aye.
Ms. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Trammell?
Aye.
Ms. Abubakar?
Aye.
Vice President Jordan? President Newbill?
Aye.
That motion has been approved and that paper as amended will be before you again on November 10th. Next before you is a motion to amend ordinance number 2025-211, which amends City Code to prohibit charging fees for requesting information required to be posted in the open data portal, and by adding therein a new section for the purpose of requiring publication of certain data sets in the open data portal to modify the requirements of posting information related to purchase contracts to the open data portal. Councilmember Breton, will you please make the motion to amend and continue this ordinance to the Monday, November 10th council meeting?
So moved.
Councilmember Robertson, would you second that?
Second.
Thank you both. Council is now voting on the motion to amend and continue ordinance number 2025-211 to the Monday, November 10th council meeting as read. Mr. Breton?
Aye.
Ms. Gibson?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Ms. Robertson?
Aye.
Ms. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Trammell?
Aye.
Ms. Abubakar?
Aye.
Vice President Jordan? And President Newbill?
Aye.
That motion has been approved and that paper as amended will be before you again on November 10th. And finally, before you is a motion to amend ordinance number 2025-214, which authorizes the conditional use of 1407 East Carey Street for the purpose of a nightclub upon certain terms and conditions. That proposed amendment would modify certain terms and conditions of the conditional use. Councilmember Trammell, would you please make a motion to amend and continue this ordinance to the Monday, November 10th council meeting?
So moved, Madam
Councilmember Jones, will you second that motion?
Second.
Thank you both. Council is now voting on the motion to amend and continue ordinance number 2025-214 to the Monday, November 10th council meeting as read. Mr. Breton?
Aye.
Ms. Gibson?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Ms. Robertson?
Aye.
Ms. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Trammell?
Aye.
Ms. Abubakar?
Aye.
Vice President Jordan? President Newbill?
Aye.
And that motion has been approved, and that paper as amended will be before you again on November 10th.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Do we have any papers for expedited consideration?
Yes, we do have one this evening, and the paper for expedited consideration is as follows. Resolution number 2025-R042, and that's to provide for the nomination of Odie Donald II, Nicole Jones, and Ellen Robertson as the city's 3 directors and the election of the Board of Directors of the Greater Richmond Transit Company for the period commencing upon election and qualification of those nominees as directors and terminating on the date of the 2026 annual meeting of shareholders upon the election and qualification of the successors to these directors. I need a motion to expedite consideration of this paper. Vice President Jordan, will you please make that motion? Councilmember Abubakar, will you second that, please?
Second.
Thank you. Council is voting on the motion to expedite consideration of resolution number 2025-R042 as stated. Mr. Breton?
Aye.
Ms. Gibson?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Ms. Robertson?
Aye.
Ms. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Trammell?
Aye.
Ms. Abubakar?
Aye.
Vice President Jordan? And President Newbill?
Aye.
That paper is now before you for consideration.
Thank you. Members, these are the persons who currently represent us, except for Mr. Donald. He is replacing I think it was Ms. Ebert in the interim after Mr. Saunders, but Ms. Jones and Ms. Robertson have been the 2 members and would complete the term through the 26th. So this just does that. So at this point, we'll proceed with the public hearing on the paper. Do we have persons present desirous of speaking in opposition to the paper? Any persons here desirous of speaking in favor of the paper? Seeing none, bringing it back to council. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed with the vote, Madam Clerk.
Council is now voting on resolution number 2025-R042 as read. Mr. Breton?
Aye.
Ms. Gibson?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Ms. Robertson?
Aye.
Ms. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Trammell?
Aye.
Ms. Abubakar?
Aye.
Vice President Jordan?
Aye.
And President Newbill?
Aye.
That resolution has been adopted.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this point, I think we will go on, and seems as if we have approval of minutes.
Madam President, the minutes to be approved are from the Monday, September 22nd, 2025 informal and formal City Council meetings at 4 p.m. and 6 p.m., and the Monday, October 6th, 2025 special council meeting at 4 p.m. If there are no corrections or amendments, then the minutes will be approved as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Madam Clerk, let's proceed with the list of legislative items to be introduced this evening.
Council members, the list of legislation for introduction this evening consisting of items 7 through 16 has been provided to you, and the legislation on this list is hereby introduced as presented. A copy of the list is currently available for public inspection at the rear of the council chamber, and an electronic copy and copies of the listed legislation will be available on the city's website no later than Wednesday, October 15th. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this point, we'll proceed with reports and announcements. And I will start with Ms. Trammell. You look like you're queued up for reports. Yes. Okay.
I'm ready. Thank you. I want to say that, first of all, I want to thank everyone that came here and spoke tonight about the 2 tax papers. I just want to make it clear that it was not our papers. It was not, the $1.16 was not mine and my 2 colleagues. It was the people's paper. and it got voted down. We're okay with that. But anyway, last Thursday, October the 9th, I want to thank Bobby Vinson, the Director of Public Works, for coming to our meeting and gave us reports about what's going on in our 8th district. And he did a great job, and the citizens just loved Bobby to death. Also, we had, I think it's January the 1st, they're going to increase if you go to the stores in Richmond, convenience stores, grocery stores, and they have bags, plastic bags, you're going to be charged 5 cents, where the store gets only 1 cent and the city gets 4 cents. Maybe we can put that in a rainy day fund for us. Also, we had some great speakers. Others says the police department, fire department, Chip Decker gave us an update on a lot of things. And again, that was October the 9th. On Tuesday, that's next Tuesday, October the 21st, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., we're going to have the Richmond Southside 8th District Senior Resource Day. And a lot of people have been calling me because they're not 65, they're not 50. I told them, yes, you can come. We don't never turn nobody away. You can come to our big event, and that's going to be Tuesday, October the 21st, 2025, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., and it's going to be at the T.B. Smith Community Center, 2009 Ruffin Road. And I'm sorry there's not enough parking. I begged and begged the previous administration, please make sure we have enough parking. We don't. We have maybe 20 at the most. So please get there early so you can at least get one of those 20 parking spaces. Of not, you have to park blocks, I guess, in the neighborhood or wherever you can find a place to park. We're going to have a lot of good time. We're going to have a lot. We're going to have a lot of. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have at least 40 vendors there. We're going to have lunch will be provided, and also the mayor will be there. The mayor, who's coming. This right here, this is what I'm going to definitely keep on pushing in my 8th district, is this tax relief form. I know it's really complicated. There's a lot of things on there that people don't understand. I'd be glad when our CAO can give me an update when we're going to move Tony Beecham over there from, I think she's over there by, Huguenot, and bring her over here to Southside Plaza, because that's where she needs to be, because it is hard as hell to find that place. It's over there by Huguenot School. The people go to the school. They got to go around the building. They got to go outside the place to try to find it and can't find it. Thank God for Tony, because she does call them back and she gives them directions how to get there. So hopefully soon they can be at Southside Plaza and we can bring that department to us so that we can have everyone come there and she can help us with these tax relief forms. And because a lot of people cannot come down here to City Hall, no place to park, and also it's a pain to get in here and to go here, there, and all of that. If you have it, oh, let me tell you about this, because I'm trying to hurry up. This right here is your smoke alarm. It's free. If you call 646-1526, they will come to your apartment, to your home, whatever, and they will make sure you have a working smoke alarm. If you need a battery, they'll put that in there too. Remember, this is probably the only thing that's free in the city, from the city of Richmond, I should say, and that's your smoke alarm. And the firefighters love coming out there to give you your smoke alarm, to put your smoke alarm on. If you have any issues, you can call my home at 804-233-7382, and my cell phone is working thanks to Matt Ogerber from the Verizon. He's the director of, oh my goodness, international. Yes, thank you. But anyway, he's been excellent helping me to get my phone. I did not have a phone for 7 days, and it was not good. But you can call it now at 804-240-5050. And then tomorrow, oh my goodness, tomorrow the chief is having a walk. It's a command staff. We're going to be Sector 112. The police chief will be there. Also, Major Keyshawn Mans will be meeting at 18th and Joplin Street at 5 p.m. tomorrow. That is Wednesday. We're going to do a walkthrough because there's been some issues over there, and the police chief and Major Keyshawn Mann with his officers would like for the community to come out there and walk with us. Thank you. Bye.
Councilwoman Abubaker. Thank you. I am going to do something new with my announcements and spend time doing a little bit of a deeper dive into one topic that I know is important to my district, as opposed to kind of listing things out, because I know people are really engaged in the 4th and they know when all the meetings are, or they can look it up in my newsletter. So this week I want to highlight an important partnership that is between my office, DPW, and the Westover Hills Elementary School PTA. Since I started running for council, the parents of the Westover Hills Elementary School have come to me about how dangerous the conditions are at the Forest Hill and Jenk Road intersection, and I've seen it myself on multiple occasions. So after months of discourse on the topic, I am going to get DPW and the PTA in the same room so that DPW can share some of the regulatory restrictions that they have, and also allow the PTA to ask DPW questions directly, and hopefully we can come up with some sort of consensus together. This is going to be taking place sometime this week at the school with the principal and my school board counterpart. So I just want to highlight this as one of the great points of the city being able to, one, be alert to the concerns of the community, and then 2, be able to build collaboration between multiple offices and the school board. So I look forward to sharing some outcomes on that meeting in the coming months with my community, in my newsletter, and here. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilwoman Lynch.
I will be really brief, because unlike most times I do my announcements, we don't have a whole cadre of Civic Association meetings to announce before the next meeting. So just wanted to give a shout out to an event happening next week, I believe in your districts. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Looking forward to celebrating Domestic Violence Awareness Month on the 23rd, with the YWCA is hosting a Remember My Name, honoring life lost to domestic violence. That is going to be from 6 to 8 at Cedar Street Baptist Church. That is an issue that cut my career in that very, very near and dear to my heart, and look forward to celebrating and honoring the organization, the survivors there, and YWCA and their good work. We have a really exciting, we have finally doing our district drive. For those of you who know, we do a ton of 5th district drives between my liaison and I. But we're doing a district drive with our CAO, and we are really excited to point out all of the wonderful things about the 5th and the things that have been on our punch list for quite some time. So that will be in the coming week, and look forward to reporting back to the constituents on our work there. With that, of course, you can always get a hold of me, stephanie.lynch@rva.gov or amy.robbins@rva.gov, or by reaching out to us on any of the social media platforms where we're available. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lynch. Councilman Breton.
I want to encourage everyone to vote early. Early voting is already open, and the welfare of our city depends on a good state government. Also want to remind people that there is a recycling fair at John Marshall High School this Saturday from 10 to 2. You can bring your e-waste, hazardous waste, and paper for shredding this Saturday. Also, DPW has a survey online for the Patterson Avenue bike lane extension. So if you want to weigh in on your hopes and dreams for the bike extension there, you can do that. You can find a link on my website or on the city website. My next first district meeting will be on Wednesday, October 29th from 6 to 8 at Mary Mumford. And I also want to remind people that Halloween is the most dangerous day of the year for people walking and cycling. So please drive safe and be careful.
Thank you, Councilman Breton. Councilwoman Gibson.
Thank you. So our next district meeting will be tomorrow, October 15th at 6 p.m. at Linwood Holton Elementary School. We will have the Director of Planning, Kevin Vonk, joining us, and the Office of Sustainability. And of course, I will be there happy to discuss the property tax rate and other such things if folks are interested. Also, coming up on Saturday, October 18th, there is the Jackson Ward Community Plan Symposium. The Jackson Ward Community Plan is a living document that was developed in partnership among the Richmond Redevelopment and Housing Authority, the City of Richmond, the Richmond Henrico Health District, and residents of the Jackson Ward community. And so to hear about that, please join at that time. That meeting will be from 10 to 1 p.m. at 700 North 4th Street. And also, the Barack Obama Elementary School PTO, Parent Teacher Organization, is excited to announce its inaugural auction, which they've called, instead of auction, it's a Baracktion. Haha. This is an online auction running from October 6th to the 19th, 2025, to raise vital funds for Obama Elementary School. You can find out more at boes.rvaschools.net. In response to rising red light violations, the City of Richmond is expanding its safety camera program to address the running of red lights. Using crash patterns and violation data, the Department of Public Works and the Richmond Police Department collaborated to identify 10 pilot locations across the city's high injury network. And in our district, I wanted to highlight 2, which is the Brooklyn Park Boulevard and Chamberlain Avenue, and the light at Chamberlain Parkway and Laburnum Avenue. And finally, please be sure to go sign up for our emailing list, which can be found on the rva.gov website. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to me at kenya.gibson@rva.gov or our district liaison, Sarandon, at sarandon.elliott@rva.gov, or call our office at 804-646-6055.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gibson. Councilwoman Jones?
Thank you, Madam President. Thursday, October 16th at 6 p.m., we are calling all young people ages 12 to 18 to join myself, Troy Hughes, and the Richmond People's Budget for food, fun, and future planning. This meeting is geared toward the youth, but all are welcome. This is in lieu of our normal town hall. This month, we are centering the voices of our young people. Friday, October 31st at 5 p.m., join us at Southside Community Center for our Trunk or Treat Night. Come in your best costume and be ready to have a good time. There will be candy, music, and fun. And then Saturday, November 1st, at Southside Community Center, basketball signups begin. Please visit Southside Community Center for more details. What's happening at your local library? October 15th, enjoy a film from a Spanish-speaking country each week as we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. And then starting October 22nd through December 3rd, which is Wednesdays at 5:30 p.m., they will have start speaking Spanish through a 6-week course where you will learn the basics of conversational Spanish in a friendly and supportive setting. Little or no experience is necessary. And every day from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., one-on-one tech help and library staff, one-on-one tech help with library staff who will help you accomplish your digital literacy goals. And every Monday through Thursday is homework help and reading together from 3:30 to 5:30. And lastly, every Thursday from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., Shalom Farms Mobile Market has fresh and affordable locally grown fruits and vegetables. For more information, you can visit the Broad Rock Library's website or stop by to get to know the librarians. My office can be reached at nicole.jones@rva.gov or by phone at 804-646-2779. But you can always reach out to Taya.West at rva.gov. She's the real person who handles everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Jones. Councilwoman Robertson?
Thank you, Madam President. A few announcements for the 6th District. On October the 29th, which is a Wednesday at 5:30, we will be having our monthly district meeting at Overby Shepherd Elementary School. Subject matters will include some special use permits that are in process in the Highland Park community as well as in Manchester. We will also have discussion on the rezoning that is in process. We have asked the administration to join us, and we will be talking about the process that the council is engaging this year to put together our budget, which includes a lot more citizen engagement in that process. And we will also have some detailed information on the status of the city as it relates to the government shutdown and the changes in expected revenues that we anticipate coming. Other items will include traffic signals that are changing in the neighborhoods as we take down traffic lights, and also we will have a discussion on public safety. In addition to that, activities at the Ann Hardy Center, they're having fall planting on October the 15th at 3:00 p.m. There will be an open discussion on Medicare 101 on October the 23rd at 10, and they will be showing a movie for kids on October the 30th at 5:00 p.m. The illumination of the park will take place on December the 3rd, and we want to ask everyone to plan to come out to be a part of that. If you need any additional information, please give me a call. My cell number is 804-314-7658, or you may call my office and speak with Kimberly Kai at 804-646-7964. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman Robertson. Just a couple of updates. The Union Market in the 7th District will host their Oktoberfest on Saturday, October 18th at the Union Market location, 2306 Jefferson Avenue, located between 23rd and Jefferson Avenue. The time will be 11 a.m. until 9 p.m. Always great fun. Please come out and join if you're available. The next 7th District Community Meeting will be held on Thursday, October 30th at 6 p.m. at the VCU Health Hub located at 1330 North 25th Street. There will be updates on Richmond Public Schools, our school board representative, our public safety representatives, code refresh, as well as update relative to water and the budget process. For additional information, please feel free to reach out to the 7th District Council Liaison, Sam Patterson, at 804-241-7544, or you can reach out to me at 804-543-7837. With that, I believe the agenda for this meeting has been addressed, all items. This meeting now stands adjourned. Thank you.